Hey, how's it going? Hey, on this fine and beautiful Sunday. What a good weather gig we've got going on at the minute. Oh, it's lovely. You can see what's coming next, guys. Oh, we've run out of water. They're going to test it this year to see if all this running off they've done. I've heard United Utilities advertisements on radio talk about covering up for stuff that's been coming out about this potential game that they're actually doing, which is running off all our water, so that we do have droughts, which is rather stupid for this country, but nevertheless they're trying the best, and that's United Utilities. What a bunch of shysters they are. Well, the dead have got a new popper. Old Popey, a new one, the Chicago Republican. Can you believe it? So Trump's got a mate, or the Pope's got a mate. I don't know, whichever way it goes, but I reckon they're going to be good mates. He's calling for peace all round, so they say. They reckon he might be a bit of an old schooler. However, we'll have to see about that, won't we? Whether he's an old schooler or not. But so yeah, a new pops for the dead. You've got a new daddy. Oh dear. Anyway, enough of that malarkey. So last week we went through reform, didn't we? And we pretty much showed that it's a load of baloney. It's just another load of garbage. And they're not going to take you anywhere apart from perhaps encourage you to civil unrest down the line. So, but what we didn't do last week with the Blues and Twos, which, if you remember, we spoke about it, I spoke about it quite a lot over the years, in the sense that it was a private society. It's headquartered at Lancashire Constabulary, what used to be Lancashire Constabulary, now Lancashire Police. So it's headquartered there. It's called the Blues and Twos Credit Union, and it's a private society. It was registered on Companies House, but then it was also classed as dissolved on Companies House. However, it has not been dissolved at all. So what we're going on there, I don't know whether that's one particular aspect of it, I don't know. But what's important is that in 2008, Lancashire County Council was dissolved and all the assets and liabilities were moved into this private society. So this is your boroughs. Now, when you look at it like this, you know, Lancashire, okay, is different in the sense that it's the Duchy of Lancaster, which of course is the stolen fiefdom that the monarch has always benefited from since they snipped it. And then of course the other one is the Duchy of Cornwall, which is assigned to the Prince of Wales. So there may be a slight difference in those two duchies, but in essence what we can look at is how they actually incorporate your town and how they've incorporated the entire borough. So when you see Lancashire County Council running around with the wagons, 20 men wrecking your roads, pretending to be fixing the potholes, then you start to realise actually it's not a council, it's a private society, and it's being run by the private for-profit corporate police. So not only are they running it, they're also protecting it, and they're enforcing whatever mandates this council has. And the reason why that came up last week is, of course, because Nigel Farage is very happy to push out there that they've taken over quite a number of county councils. So my guess would be, if you were to investigate your own borough, you would find a similar format as to what we'll have a little look at tonight. And it is important. Now, the piece on the website that I did quite some years ago when I dipped my toe into local politics, by joining the local Chamber of Trade, which put me right into the mix of the council and the police, etc., because they come every week. I learned quite a lot, just being able to see right through the garbage. What I found was, didn't matter how well I presented it to chamber people, council people, they were either too thick. Well, in the case of the council, they were shitting themselves because obviously I were undermining their old scam. The police didn't like it because I was dishing out law in relation to how people can use it. But the chamber people themselves, they were just so thick, so embedded in their own little world, you know what I mean? Money, 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 I'm this, I'm that. It didn't go anywhere, it wasn't going to go anywhere, and I could see pretty clearly that it wasn't going to go anywhere. Not because of my abilities or my efforts, but because the simple fact is I was talking to infants. But nevertheless, I learned a lot, and over that time period, adding to what I'd already done maybe 20 years ago, the picture again reformed itself, updated itself, and I could pretty much see what was going on. So we'll have a little dip into that, because it is important, because this is how they are achieving this incorporation of everything, ready for this reset, this great taking of everything. You know, they've been taking the properties, taking the land through the councils and trusts, because they're setting up trusts all over the show, and just taking over land and then using it. And then, of course, after 5 years, if nobody comes forward to claim it, they get to keep it. And that's the system operating under the land registry, which, of course, again, is a private for-profit corporate entity. And instead of operating on deed, it's operating on title. And, of course, title is the legal system. Deed is where you get it coming out through your common law. So it's all into play. The case that I've been involved with now for some time, it's out of the lower shit, and now I'm playing out with the big curlies and pufters, the big infants up there in La La Land who think they're fantastic and amazing. Well, I will just say this. One thing that's very, very clear now at this stage is the fact that the entire court system, the judiciary, the lawyers, councils, all these claimants on securities and liabilities that they've got going on everywhere, that actually is the system that gives these fruitcakes the ability to breach your trust and extort the equity held in the beneficiary. And it's clear that the whole system, every single court, is there for their advancement of extortion upon your ignorance of the game. And it doesn't matter which way I look at it from this point. It's all that. That is the entire system that they're using for robbery. All of it. So any judge you know, any lawyer, barrister, all these people that are up there thinking they're good and fantastic, and they wear a suit, a nice car, talk rather posh. These are the people that are actually, they are the fascist system, and they haven't got a clue. And it's even worse because so many of them are actually the generation that has done nothing but decry the fascist system on the back of the Second World War. It is so ironic. But as we said last week, this game has a king called ignorance, and it has a power called usury. And that is what is operating this system. But the irony is it's so ironic that all the people that have decried fascism since the day they were born, because they've had it thrust down their neck, are the very people that are that system today here on England. And they haven't got a clue. Or maybe they're starting to see a little bit, but they just don't get it. They are the ones. Now, this Blues and Twos is an interesting gig because, of course, other people have picked up on this over the years. It was a friend of mine back in the day who actually, he found it, he spoke to the Lord Lieutenant about all this kind of stuff as well. He really got into it. Passed it on to me. I went with it. I published it everywhere. I published it locally before I was on the internet and such. But somebody else then took the mantle I think it was a lady called Caroline, and she, like me, saw on Company's House that it was, for all intents and purposes, had been dissolved. Now, it's only because of a quick visit to the library last week. So, obviously the libraries have completely changed since I was last in them, which is probably about 20 years ago. And I was like shocked at the fact that there were very few books in it. And I'm thinking, what? This is a library? So I asked one particular guy, I said, look, is there no history books in here or anything like that? And he said, upstairs. So off I went. And again, very few, it were all local history. So no major, these libraries today are ridiculous, to be quite honest. But upstairs were full of local history books. And there were two in particular that I came across. One was the history of Lancashire. And the other was the history of Lancashire County Council. So I started to have a look at those, but they're for reference, so I couldn't take them out. He did check, and they are available in other libraries, so I can actually get hold of them. And he made a point, he was very helpful, and he was saying, like, you know, they only go to 1974, which is when everything changed, when they signed into Europe. But just in the conversation, I said, well, what I'm looking for is more on the English law, because all Lancashire County Council were dissolved, and all the assets and liabilities were put into the Blues and Twos. And he said, I said, it looks like it's now been dissolved. I said, so we're trying to work out where the hell it's all gone. And he said, well, the Blues and Twos is still alive and kicking. He says, I am a member of it. And then he explained to me what it meant to them. So I got back home, up on there it is. It's still there in all its glory. And you know, straight away I could just say, oh my God, all these anti-fascists who are now the fascists, all their wealth, their savings, their loans, all their finance is going on around this Blues and Twos credit union. And it's like, they've created a separate system, but taken all our land, property, into its fold as the capital. And it's like, whoa, even I hadn't seen that picture. I knew they took the capital in, but it didn't make sense as it does now, which was, and that's what they're lending themselves all this funny money on. And they all believe that they're separate when the shit hits the fan. And they really do believe this. And like I said, he's headquartered at Lancashire Constabulary, or Lancashire Police, impersonating the Constabulary. It's enforced by the police. And of course, they're going to be one of the main beneficiaries. Now, because what it's clearly showing is that fascism in this nation is everything that's connected to the domestic security systems, i.e. the PCC, the MERS, and the police themselves. They are the fascist system, not the army, the navy, not the RAF, the actual police. And it's all built around, so anything that's connected to this corporate police today is the fascist system. And that is rather worrying. But then, of course, it's easier because now we know who it is. And I know most of the police people today have no concept of this because they've lowered the IQ and they've to Google the law. So what they're getting trained at the police college, I don't know. But it's obviously not law. It'll be policing. That's what they'll be trained, policing. I mean, over the time, we've asked questions of them in relation, are you teaching your recruits the difference between man and person? Zippo. Because they're not. Which is why they have to Google when they pull you up. Oh, well, I'm just doing this law. Well, wait a minute, I'll Google it. So they're not teaching them anything apart from policing, giving them a uniform and saying, get out there and bully the plebs. And it's like, okay, so... And now we have to become aware of this, all of us, because this baby boom generation, they're too fixed, too such, and too do as you're told and keep your mouth shut. That's the programme. But they've really no idea that they are the very system that they've cried about since they were kids. They have become it on England. Shock horror. Well, what's the major facilitator of that? That's Freemasonry in its entirety. That is the mechanic by which they've been able to formulate this foreign entity for profit on England, and nobody's seen it. And that's gone on under the reign of that wench that's just left. Whether she's left office or left her carcass, I don't know. And so she was no monarch, only an acclaimed monarch. So Greg's right on that one. And it's moved a step down with this guy, because there's no mention of England. The Church of England has been dismantled. And he's up there shagging aggies in Scotland. Talking big up on the old big C, and how you should all give you even more money for him to not find your remedy. So you can see, as I've said all along, this next gig that's coming in with the Longhead, William the potential wife killer, because even though they keep putting images up all over the shop, there's no images out there today of her today that I'm aware of. If anybody knows different, let me see them. But still, there's no on-the-spot live images of him, Longhead, and Flossie. There's plenty of Harry and the Megano, or whatever it's called, moaning and striking about not getting his protection here and blah-de-blah-de-blah, and Daddy won't talk to me. He's not your daddy, lad. He's pretending. You know what I mean? He's a pretend. And you're not playing the game properly. But then, I believe he's playing a game properly. Because if they can get everybody to hate Charlie Boy, well, the quicker they're going to get in Longhead, who's heading Ark, which is a great paedophile ring, outed, we got rid of the CEO, he's still a paedophile ring, it's still going on, and he's still the patron. That's Longhead. So everybody's focused to Andy Pandy, who shagged the girl 3 times and paid her 15 grand. She's now dead, apparently. But no, that's more important than the fact that Prince William is the patron of a fucking huge paedophile ring that connects and interconnects with the Dutra affair, which is the aristocratic sexualized rock and roll and murder. I mean, that sadistic isn't the word. If you're aware of the Dutra affair, which I've got on the website, I've got a full piece on it. So I'll put that under this for you to peruse later, but nobody seems to be concerned at that fact. Prince William, Longhead, more than likely the offspring of Jacob Rothschild, because he had a long head. Charles being the offspring of Sir Evelyn. Of course, the Rothschilds being the trustees for this Holy See bunch of shysters. At Persia. I don't know. You can see that they're going to move it again. They're going to... He's not even going to be a monarch. And then that'll be the end of England. Not because they've decided it, but because people have forgotten about it. People don't even know what she is. Well, she's my bird. And I like her. She's a good one. And I'm not forgetting about her, you know what I mean? And it's like Graham, I believe, it went nowhere, his attempt at getting votes. Nobody understands what England is anymore. Especially the baby boomers. They have no concept of what England is. They're UK corporate incorporated, and they've all off the south to this Johnny come lately. Without any question as to what that actually means. But this blues and twos is so important in relation to how it's all moving in and enforced by this private for puppet police force that's very busy impersonating the constabulary. So back to what I was saying before about what I can see now clearly with this system. All your courts, your magistrates courts, your county courts, even your High Court today, your Supreme Court even, that is the very system in its entirety that allows them to extort your estate. So the entire thing of it is garbage. It's what you would call of the unclean. It is the unclean, which is why when you're in those situations in the courts, you're dealing with these situations, it doesn't matter what you put forward. Even when you're showing them that they're not even operating in accordance with their own due process, their own statutes. And that's because that's not what that system's for. That system is there for one thing: to let the elites extort your estate and take out the equity, the property, the land and everything into the hands of this new no-hide trust, which everybody believes it's the jaywalkers or the small hats, but in fact it's just the purveyors of compound interest as a whole, operating for the super banks, which is like the Bank for International Settlements. All your central banks. At the back of that are these Venetian or curse lines that basically have took over the entire West through compound interest. So it is a priesthood of compound interest. And thus everything that we still see today as part of our system is in fact now incorporated, and it's operating to rob everything in the West without you actually seeing it. So and this monarch stepping down a leg again off England, again, as such a move, their ability to block you up a gear. Because now even the offices of state that you would expect to still remember the laws of England, the lowland, the land law, even they're all now operating against it and fixing you. Now, what we have seen is clear in this game, and the judge himself showed this, that this is in fact a trust system that they're operating. So one would expect the Chancery, which deals in the trust law, specifically the equity and the beneficiary, to recognise that. But oh no, what they've done is thrust it outside the Chancery to the Chancery Listing Office and straight to the appointed trustee via the court. Thus again, evidencing that this is a trust matter. Everything that they're doing is a trust matter. And the judge in that case refused settlement, in the endorsed bills, because we put them before him, copies of. But more importantly, what did he do? He refused settlement by coin on the day. Now, by their own insolvency rule, you can only rule insolvency if they can't pay. And there's no sight that in the near future it can be paid. He didn't even allow it on the day, showing clearly that the whole system that everybody's been battling in is that very system that allows this fascist system to incorporate everything right down to your flesh and blood and your offspring. And it's just as clear as a bell now. I can see it's all playing. It's just there. So when you start to, you can see it, like I said before, if you're doing anything in this game, you've got to go through a process. You can't just, like, I've noted there's a lot less people coming to visit us these days, and that's because I've stopped talking law. And that's because all they're looking for is a cheat sheet. That's all they're after, a cheat sheet. And they don't want to put the effort in. They're not prepared to listen to people that say, well, if you do this, this, this and this. No, they're just looking for a cheat sheet. Because they want to run away, run off and whatever. It's not the way you've got to go through a process so you've got the evidence to show that you've done certain things. And that way then it collapses their assumption. Whatever it is they're coming in with you, at you with. And so there is a process to everything. And if I've learned nothing in this, and that is that you have to keep going. Because everything they're doing is to try and block you so you give up. Block you so you capitulate. It's all about that. That's what they're doing at every point. You just haven't to do to be a pit bull. You have to be an English pit bull and say, no, keep going. They keep going, they do all their own little fancy garbage in the background. But you've got to keep going because you know you're right. You know that what they're doing is incorrect. It's unlawful. It's even in relation to them not upholding their own due process and their own statutes. It's also illegal what they do. But because they're all backing each other, whether that's Receiver's Office, whether it's High Court, whether it's Chancery, whether it's Lady Chief Justice, Permanent Secretary to the Treasury, the Registrar General, they're all working together. And they're all working together for the IOR, which we looked at, did we not, earlier in this year, or just before Christmas, I can't remember exactly when. And this is interesting because the dead have a new popper, and old Vigano there, who I do quite like, I think he's a good egg. I know a lot of people are giving him a bit of grief, but no. Oh God, see, I'm rubbish at remembering where I put him. No. Ah, there we go. So here's the new Pope, Robert Prevost, and he's an American Pope. He's actually a Republican. He's a registered Republican. Now, I was very intrigued to find this because here we get my old mate, my old favourite Catholic rebel at the moment, which is Carlo Maria Vigano. Now, he was the American nuncio until he rebelled and Francis took him off that, which Francis, not being a real pope, can't really do that, but he did anyway. So this is a press release from Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, and he says, I gave a mandate to Professor Attorney Augusto Sinagra with legal firm in Rome in Vale Gorizia, N13, to file a lawsuit with the Civil Court of Rome against the Institute for the Works of Religion, which is the IOR, which I discussed in depth. Now, I know most of you were like, It's so important, that video, it's outrageous. I think if you paid attention to it from the beginning to the end, you yourself would understand why that data is so important. So he's brought this case against the IOR, which is run by the Vatican State, okay? In the person of the previous Director General, in the person of the current Director General, Dr. Gianfranco Mam, or Mami, along with a prelate of the Roman Curia. The lawsuit concerns an undue appropriation of very valuable assets deposited at the IOR that were intended to be used for works of charity. Now, that could be far more important than first meets the eye, because what valuable assets do we know that have been shoved in at the call of Francis the other September when he demanded all assets be put into the Vatican Bank? You see, the trust that's created at the birth is a valuable asset. And the Vatican is a charity. And so when you get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on with your the trust that's created upon your being born, you are classed as an asset, and it's being put in to a charitable organisation. So the aspect of the Vatican that it's put into is classed as a charity. This is why you can't find any data, regardless of how well you look. So I don't know at this stage what the this Archbishop is talking about entirely, but you're now coming to understand what's actually happening when it comes to this trust setting up. That valuable assets to the IRI could in fact be him speaking in terms of that without speaking it, if you get my meaning. And if it was to be used in the Vatican charity, all well and good. But now, as we know, they're moving those assets into this Noahide Trust, which is going to be based in Kazakhstan. So they can feign Rome's been destroyed. Yeah, the Muzzies are all about that. They think, oh, we're going to do blah, 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 blah. The Abad Lubavitch are all about it, all this malarkey and all that shit. So, in that sense, to all intents and purposes in the public, Rome would have been destroyed. But, of course, it's not. It's being shifted to Kazakhstan in a new trust that incorporates all the religions. It pushes climate change, everything that we don't like, transgenderism and all this malarkey. And because it's not actually a religious gig, it's the trust where the compound interest accrued properties, land, securities, bonds, all the assets you can think of are going to be shifted into. So it's not even a religious gig up there, it's power. It's power, and that's all it is. Everything else is just a means to that end. So I found that rather interesting. Of course, I would need to give it a little bit more sort of attention to fully understand what Mr. Vigano there is actually doing. And I've said before, I'm quite convinced that there is a major division forming in the Catholic Church. Not the Vatican, I'm talking about the Catholic Church. Now, if you haven't absorbed the works of Malachi Martin, whether you're a Catholic or not, you're not going to understand why I think this is such an important thing. Because it is actually, it's a division between what was original Catholicism and this Vatican II system, which has been the stepping stone to the Noahide Trust, completely controlled by these fruitcakes that operate within a religion. And it's called the Sanhedrin, which is just a front, of course. But ultimately, it's a financial rob, a reset, and it's taking everything. So it's very important, and I know I go on about it, and I go on about it for a reason, because until you absorb the immensity of it, you can't understand why I'm talking about it. But it is important, because people will say, we need, oh, well, this is what we're going to do. Well, what you're going to do is, at some point, for there to be an opposition to this, it can't be with this little group over there separate, this little group over there separate, all wanting to kick the shit out of whomever they think is the enemy. The only way you're going to really oppose this is when huge swathes of people that are within institutions that are being controlled by people that are seeing the game, or you're going to have the energy and the mass to actually move against it. And this is the biggest institution on the planet, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not. And so if this divides against this shit system, which is Vatican II, and the Noahide system, then you're saying to yourself, across the world, we have an energy. But at the moment we don't. We've got division everywhere. I mean, Protestantism broke up into 14 million fucking divisions. And they all hate each other, because generally they just hate. I'm not talking about the flock, I'm talking about, the clergy side of things. So that's useless. Freemasonry in its entirety is operating for this Vatican II Noahide system. So you're not going to get anything there. The Templars formed it. So you're not going to get any help from them either. It has to be something completely new that creates itself from within what already exists. A bit like the Protestant Reformation. Everybody were Catholic until that happened. And then it created an energy. Unfortunately, we were picked up by these compound interest priesthood, because obviously it needed money to survive, did the rebellion. But on the back of that, look what we're able to be created on that division. Do you know what I mean? The British Empire, you might say. So, so that'd be the trick at this point. It would be that we have to follow the same kind of path, i.e. division, and it breaks up, but not be fooled in the same way that they were then, which is you don't go back to the same bastards that are creating this for your finance. And if you do get, well, you just don't give them back. Tell them to fuck off, like Richard III did, you know. Anyway, you get what... So it's really important that people get at this. But honestly, if you really want to get a grip of what it is I'm saying and why I'm saying this, you would be very wise to appraise yourself with the interview, or the books even. But the interview itself, which I think is like 8 hours long, broke up into about 5 or 6 sessions with that guy coast to coast. I can't remember his name from now at this point, but he was very well known in America. And Malachi Martin did quite a lot of interviews on there and pretty much told you everything you need to know. And then, of course, you've got his books if you want to pursue it further. And so I believe Archbishop Vigano and then some of the other people that are starting to look at him and think, well, hang on a minute. They're also now starting to come a little bit more in sync with what Malachi was telling them, which is basically the church has fucked off from the Vatican. It's no longer in there. It's been on full-blown Luciferianism. But the church has gone underground somewhere else. That's what he was basically saying. And because I've said this before, you've got to look at Rome as broken up into 2 parts. The whole of the Roman Empire and then the church itself. And the whole of the Roman Empire is all about wind, piss, blood, guts, kill. Even the Inquisition was carried out by the Talmudists. There is a separation between the two, but they've obviously been amalgamated over these centuries and it just looks like one body. But I'd say it was took over, I'd say it was starting to be screwed over after the Crusade. Whatever they found over there in Jerusalem, which in my opinion was the knowledge to create the Babylonian temple, which they then turned it and called it Solomon's temple, when in fact there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that Solomon or David even ever existed. And that's a fact. You know, there's wind and piss everywhere. There's, he said, my mate said, and he saw that, and blah, blah. There's tons of that. And that's been going on for centuries, to the point that now people just think it's absolute. But you get into the nitty-gritty of it, properly, archaeological, etc. There is no evidence at all that David or indeed Solomon ever existed. In the same way, there is no evidence that what we call Israel was actually centred in the Levant. There's no evidence. In fact, the archaeological evidence moves contrary to it. And we've explored that in previous live streams, probably a year or so ago. So, it's like I said, if you're looking for a division here, you're not going to get it by joining Golden Gun, who have got about, what, 20,000 members or something like that, and hate everybody, but while thinking they're doing something good. Or the anarchists. They're all separate, and they all hate each other. Rebellion isn't going to come that way. Revolution might, which is very bloody. But rebellion is not going to come unless a major energy of power divides itself. So, make of that as you will, but it's important that we pay attention to what this new Pope's about, and is he in sync with Archbishop Vigano? And of course, apply critical thought to everything that you see. Just don't believe anything. Let's watch and see. But if there's an energy going to form that's going to oppose this system, then the biggest power that there is out there in the entire world is Rome. Like it or lump it. Like it or lump it. You would need something to come out of that would have then the power, but across the world. I mean, the Malachi, he said the same, you'll never destroy it, it's too vast. It's in everything and it's everywhere. Which is why, you know, they're determined to not destroy it, but to take it over. Because, of course, you take over the very instrument that has its hands in every pie across the world, straight away, you have your hands in every pie across the world. It makes perfect sense to me. So it's important that we keep an eye on this, because if you're real and you really want to oppose this shit, it's not going to happen until there's a massive body of people starting to oppose it, that it has its connections across the entire globe. And now if you can't understand that as real, then you're wasting your time. You might as well go and join the Fruitbat Club, the lunatic asylum, because you're not being real. You're living in a fantasy world because that's all you want, the fantasy, because you don't actually want to ever do anything about it, you just like moaning. So keep your eyes on this stuff, people. It's really important. You know, it's very, very, very important stuff. Regardless of, it's not about what religion you are, what culture you are, what colour you are. This is about how do we revolt against this complete and utter theft of everything that everybody has. Even you wealthy people that think you're going to be safe for you. You're off your head. You are off your head if you think that you're going to be safe under this garbage. I mean, so let's have a quick look at what is coming out about this guy. And one of his colleagues has said, Cardinal Blaise Cupich, Archbishop of Chicago, told Face the Nation that he expects Pope Leo XIV feels an obligation to speak to the issues of the day amid the real challenges globally, from immigration to climate change. Okay, so that doesn't sound good, because there are challenges, i.e. there is no fucking climate change outside of geoengineering, and immigration in its entirety needs to fucking stop rapid, and every fucker that's been moved around needs to be fucking moved back. Quick. Because anything other than that, and we're going to have a fucking mess. And I don't think it's that far off, to be quite honest. So we really need to work out what's he on. Is he going to push it, support it, or is he going to tell it to fuck off? I don't know. We don't know. We have to keep our eyes open on this, because, you know, we'll pretty soon get an idea of where he's at. And then if that's the case, then we need to look at this Vegano chat and think, well, is this guy the super reb that everybody really needs to be looking at? Now, this says, is Pope Leo XIV the first US-born pontiff a registered Republican? Or is it? Right, okay, so my apologies. I thought it would have been said that he was, but it's looking like they're asking the question. So, again, something else we need to look at, especially while you've got the blonde bombshell over there in power. So, again, it's important stuff, this. What else have we got? He doesn't like war. He's called for no more war. Well, that's hardly likely unless you get rid of all these immigrants, mate. In his first Sunday address, giving a clear indication of how he intends to continue the legacy of his predecessor, Tossbag. So that doesn't bode well for a start, I have to say. So I'm thinking, the dead have got a new papa at this stage. It doesn't look good. So I'm erring on the side of Archbishop Vigano there at this stage. What else have we got? Well, this is interesting. So everybody's moaning and tits off about all the colonisation of Africa and how it's all terrible and everybody's evil that comes from the West. So what is the crack in China? Well, Yi Gang is the governor of the People's Bank of China and is on the board of directors of BIS Basel, so that's Bank for International Settlements. Gang was educated in the USA and works for the royal Yi family of China and their triad gangs. Well, interestingly, where did the triad gangs come from? Well, when you get into the Opium Wars, which is the East India Companies, the way that they do it is they create their own gangster or subversion underworld in the nation that they're attacking, and they're the ones that then trade the opium. So the triad gangs in their entirety, and all these gangs that were set up, the Dragon Society and all that back in the day, were all operating for the East India Companies, or as they call it, the British Crown. And the British Crown has leverage over China through its covert control of Hong Kong. Now, again, all the British Crown is entirely a Jesuit operation. It calls itself at the firm. It calls itself a company, and of course the East India companies are of the same. Yeah. So because I watched someone on LaRouche the other day. This Asian guy, supposedly clever and intelligent, picking up Galloway, which we'll have a look up again in a minute. Picking up Galloway as a supremely intelligent guy, claiming there's a British Constitution and all this fucking garbage, and then going right ahead and blaming fucking Britain for the problems in India and Pakistan. When, British Empire is the problem. It's got nothing to do with England, save that it's centred in London. There's no British Constitution, so he's full of shit. So I just put a little piece up saying, what's your real game? No response, of course. But you can see that they keep pushing this game always, and it works because people haven't worked out that British and English isn't the same. So there he is, Yi Gang. Ooh, he doesn't look very nice, does he? You want to meet him in an old warehouse, would you? He'd look like he'd tie up and do nasty things to you. So there we go. That's that. There's some other interesting stuff here about China that people... Oh, that wasn't the African one. Sorry. This is the African one. Because it's important that we get this gig, because everybody just assumes that everything that's going on is coming out of the West because of the WEF. But whatever controls the WEF also controls everything else. So this is, I don't know what this is actually from. It says, straight away you see sustainable development there in it. So it says Africa and China share similar ideals. Do they? The African side highly appreciates and fully supports the important vision of building a community with a shared future for mankind, as well as the Belt and Road Initiative. So there you've got Kazakhstan, there you've got Putin, yeah, you've got China, Singapore. The Global Development Initiative, or the Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative, put forward by President Xi Jinping. The African side is willing to work with China to jointly advocate the common values of humanity. So look, the humanity and mankind, can you see how they shift it? They know quite well that there's two... So when he's saying building a community with a shared future for mankind, they're speaking about the elites. When they're talking about what they're going to do to everybody else, they talk about humanity. Now, you don't see the difference there as a general rule. You don't see that trickery. Yeah, so the important vision of building a community with the shared future for mankind, that's exactly... Now, if you've watched Game of Thrones, which I probably think you all have, the basic structure of it is, it's the living versus... So you've got the normal elite houses fighting for supremacy. But once it's assumed and somebody's chosen for the crown, they're all against it, the throne. They're all on board. But the main thrust of it is it's the living versus the dead. And of course they have the dead there under these night kings looking all miserable and horrible. And they're all skeletons and looking ridiculously crap. Peasantry, all that shit. But what you haven't realised is that's you. When it's showing that big army of the dead that just grows and grows and grows, yeah? Because you can't kill the dead, can you? Once you're dead, you're dead. And legally, you're all dead, so you can't be dead again. Are you getting me? So it keeps growing. So what you're seeing there, and obviously you're all with these living, they're the ones that are trying to destroy you. And so when they talk about their so there's two systems there that he's speaking of. Yeah, the African side highly appreciates and fully supports their gig, which means they have to kill everybody. And that the Belt and Road Initiative, Global Development Security State Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative put forward by President Xi. Okay? So that's what they've got together for them, mankind. The living. The African side is willing to work with China to jointly advocate the common values of humanity. Yeah, so now they're in agreement that they all have to work together at the top, and they all agree that they have to deal with humanity, which is the monsters. okay, the dead, and supports all countries in exploring a path to modernisation that suits their national conditions. The African side firmly pursues the One China policy and staunchly supports all efforts made by the Chinese government to achieve national reunification. The African side resolutely opposes. Now, you see, what is China? Well, China is the New World Order. The whole COVID gig was set off there. Remember this. They're in it up to their eyeballs. That is the system they want to put forward. But obviously in Africa, they're promoting themselves as a separate entity. Nonsense. It's the same gig. The same gig. And they're getting rid of all Africans by sending them all across Europe. So they can repatriate Africa with Chinese. Yeah, Kazakhs and Uzbekis and Mongols and all that shit. And that's what they're doing. But it's the way they speak it that's... There's where you see the trickery with it, you know what I mean? Where are we now? Now then, I think I spoke about this last week, but... So we looked last week and just at the fact that the Serco are now blagging landlords to hand over the properties where Serco pay everything for 5 years. And then a guy we're making it clear that actually the main perpetrator of this at the moment is the Indian branch of the empire, which is also busy fighting Pakistan or through Kashmir. So just to add to that, because obviously if the Indians are doing this, then the hotels are emptying and they're being put in the community. So Starmer has been accused of implementing a two-tier tax system that hurts the British workers after exempting Indian migrants from paying national insurance under a new trade deal. So, can you see how there's deals going on in the background, India's playing its role, it gets this, and now it's playing the other role, and it's getting them immigrants out of these hotels, because it's causing a lot of problems, because people can count them. Get them out into La La Land, you're not going to be able to, you're going to lose track of how many there are. Which works in sync with the depopulation that's been going on the last 5 years. Doesn't get overcrowded, they just replace it. So it all interconnects, and that's Serco and G4S. Okay? And in a lot of cases, the people buy ex-military. So, again, like the baby boomer is the fascist system. All you ex-military boys, once you've come out of the military, you then becoming it, and you haven't got a clue. Yeah, SIA licenses, all this stuff. It's all a part of it. So that I thought were interesting and worth a bit of a look. Now, honestly, this fucking guy. I mean, I've been on this guy's back for a long time and he won't debate me, right? So, he's got a new wife. Now, not long ago, when he were in Respect and covering up the Afghan importation of the Taliban opium network so they could get it direct from Afghanistan, which our boys were guarding, he had a Muslim wife. Yeah? All of a sudden now, he's got a Mongolian wife. And he says George Galloway has appeared in Moscow, because he's a Bolshevist, for Vladimir Putin's Victory Day celebrations days after flying to Iran to collect an award named after a dead Hamas leader. I mean, this guy's a fucking wanker and a half. He wants battle. No, don't say that. No, he doesn't. He's a nice little guy and we should love him. I don't fucking think. These are the kind of people, if we went back to English law, they would pull out of the little office and hang them. That's what English law says. Not me. English law. That's what they're doing. The leader of the hard left Workers' Party of Britain, Workers' Party of Britain now, not Respect anymore. He did his gig up there, blagged all the Muslims, and now he's off with his Kazakhstan image. Leader of the Left Workers' Party of Britain travelled to Tehran this week to collect an award in honour of Ismail Haniyeh, the assassinated political leader of Hamas, who the former MP praised as a fucking martyr. Here is Mr. Galloway pictured with his wife in Red Square. Fuck me, this guy's either got a big cock, or she's just a beard, like his other one, and he's just a puppet. He's a fucking muppet, this fella. I can't stand the fella, I really don't. Lawrence of Bradford, I called him. I think it's time to call him Lawrence of Kazakhstan. Because that's where it's all leading, folks. And there is his Mongol missus. Look at the state of him. You fucking tosser. Anyway, that's enough time for that prick. So, what else have we got? Oh, wait a minute. Now, there's some interesting gig here that is definitely worth looking at. Now, in all intents and purposes, Russia and the EU hate each other, don't they? So we're told. So La La Land wants us to believe, because of course of the Ukraine black op for money laundering, organ trafficking, sale of military hardware, and laundering all that cash that you're sending in because they can add to it by 25 billion, invent it, print it, and say, look what you all sent us. Even though we might only really send them about 20 quid. As a whole, they can say, oh, look, you've all fucking sent it in now. How fantastic is that? So this is Igor Ivanov, former foreign minister of Russia. Foreign minister, okay? Now, this is on the European Leadership Network, okay? Building better security for wider Europe. But remember, everything Russia and Europe, they despise each other, okay? If you believe La La Land. Now, he's head of RIAC, whatever that means. We might find out in a minute. It says, Igor Ivanov is a Russian politician and served as the former secretary of the Security Council of the Russian Federation from 2004 to 2007. Prior to this, he served as Foreign Minister of Russia from 1998 to 2004. He is a professor of Moscow State Institute of International Relations and a member of the Supervisory Council of the fucking European Leadership Network. Right, can you see? It's all bullshit, all of it, everything that they shove down your neck. It's just garbage. I'm sure there were more fucking writing than that. I might not screenshot it properly. So that I thought, again, it was just another interesting piece to show that these tossers, they're all playing and pissing in the same pot and probably bumming each other stupid. Now then, what else did I have here? Where is it? EU. Now, I've said for years that EU was a London creation because it is. And the reason why they wanted us not to leave Brexit is because, of course, implement Brexit is because the Crown here is making a fucking fortune, the city. Now, Chatham House, this is off Chatham House website, okay, and it's basically looking at its partners. EIG, Bill and Melinda Gates, BP, Carnegie, Chevron, Clifford Chance, Crescent Petroleum, Eni SPA, Equinor, European Commission. Okay, HSB, yeah, blah, blah, blah. The European Commission, EC, is the primary executive arm of the European Union. And they're not elected. It operates as a cabinet government. Now, what have we discussed about cabinet? Yeah, it cannot be identified as to what the fuck it is. With 27 members of the Commission. The General Secretariat of the Council of the European Union, GSC, also known as Council Secretariat, assists the Council of the European Union. The Presidency of the Council of the European Union, the European Council, and the President of the European Council. Well, what did that flossy say? We'll have a look at that again. General Secretary of the Council of the European Union and European Commission are both a corporate member of Chatham House, Tavistock, Round Table, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, CFR, Club of Rome. That's the entire fucking New World Order gig, based and run in Chatham House. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, European Investment Bank, European Stability Mechanism. Yeah, Fitch, Flint, Guardian, Hacklot. Now, I've gone through that with you before. GlaxoSmithKline, HM Treasury. HM Treasury, okay? European Investment Bank, EIB is the European Union's investment bank, and it is the largest multilateral financial institution in the world. Interesting. So it's bigger than the Fed, is what they're claiming. Interesting. So there you go. Chatham House, European Union, it belongs entirely to the empire. Okay, the inner city. So that again I thought was an interesting bit of data that people would be wise to recognise. What else have we got? I don't know whether we've got that many now. I think I might have gone through them. What's this? Oh, Ben Askey's resigned from MOD. Admiral Sir Ben K has relinquished control of the Royal Navy, the Ministry of Defence has said. Now, it looks like he's been banging some Flossie, which is another good reason why he shouldn't have Flossies in military, but nevertheless. Whether he's gone because he's an English guy or he's gone higher, or whether he's just a no-hider and he's moving into another role, I don't know. But anyway, I just thought that might be interesting. What else have we got here? I think that pretty much, yep, that sorts them out. So that's that. So that's that done. What else did I have? Oh, we've looked at that, haven't we? This is something that I didn't show you last time. But of course, to the left, that's the image we have of Napoleon, isn't it? And to the right is an actual bust made for him at his time. Doesn't look same, does it, that? For some reason. What do you think? And then, of course, back in them days, the Moors were the power. So what game have they played inciting all these fruitcakes of history as being white honkies, when in fact, in a lot of cases, they were nothing of the fucking sort? So there's an actual bust of Napoleon Bonaparte. And it doesn't just end there. There's a lot of different figures in history. The pictures we've been presented with are nothing like the actual busts that were made back in the day. Not other year art and all that, because that's again where they can blag you. But when you match the busts which were always made in the time, when they were alive, contradicts the garbage. So I just thought I'd leave that with you. It did show last week quick. But there's a lot more of that we can go through at some point, just to give you an idea of just how this idea that every fucking nut job that's ever been has been a white honky is like a bit of a fib. That's not to say there's white honkies that are not nut jobs, they fucking are. However, clearly Napoleon Bonaparte wasn't this little fucking shitbag here with a white pink face, was it? Same with Cromwell. You know, you don't get anything of Cromwell. You get his death mask, but that's... You get into the nitty-gritty of it, the guy looked Moorish. Same with Henry VIII. Contrary to his brothers, he looked almost fucking black when he was a kid. You know, interesting. Another interesting point is that when the Hanoverians came on, they weren't just the kings of England, they were kings of England and France. And people forget this, or didn't even know. And I do have evidence for that, which I'll pull out for just to show you now that I've mentioned it at some point, not tonight. But yeah, so there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Things are never what they appear to be, are they? Ever. There's always some sleight of hand going on somewhere that's just enough to just blag us and make us think we know what we're talking about, when in fact we haven't got a fucking clue. What say you, St. Jimmy? St. Jimmy agrees. I heard him twang the guitar. Anyway, who's joined us tonight? And then we'll crack on with... why? I mean, I'm not going to go on and bore you to death with it, but it's interesting data, and I think Richard Volb's actually cited this piece, one of the pieces I'm going to show you, on a short video not that long ago. So well done, Richard, because... Not because you did it because I'd done it, but because you recognise what an important set of data it is in relation to you applying what I've found presented and looking for the system in your own town, you will find everything you need to find in your own town, because it's a format, and it's a format that they use everywhere. So Slipknot says, right, Sean, right, everyone, evening, Slipknot. Mew says, hello, wise Salam, hi, Sean, hi, Slipknot, hello, Mew. June says, good evening, Sean, chat evening, June. Mark says, evening, Sean, and hello, all, evening, Mark. Upward says, hi, everyone, great to be back with you all. It's good to have you back, Upward, nice to see you. Benefactor says, hi, Sean, and the Wise Asylum team, excited for your presentation tonight. Wishing you all the best, looking forward to the valuable insights you'll share. Thank you, Benefactor, and evening to you. Upward says, Mew, yeah, blah, blah. Neil just has been watching Dom on Bajerski channel. Okay. I'll be seeing you all that next week, won't I think. PY Music says, good evening, all evening to you, Paul. Paul 7 says, good evening, Sean, fellow minutes, evening, Paul. Jane says, evening, Sean, evening, all evening, Jane. DJ from 88, hey up, Sean, and all of the chat folks, evening to you, DJ. Jerry says, evening, all in the Wild Sound, evening, Jerry. Where are we? The Truth is Sovereign says, evening all, and all, Sean and all, sorry. Yeah, evening to you, Truth is Sovereign. AMG says, evening, Sean, Stumpy, and all non-mutants, evening to you, Mucker. Again, on with the old pooch. The passing of the pooch. Anyway, evening to you, AMG. Mew gives it Iowa, there you go. Oh, there, thanks for that, Mew. Yeah, very... I mean, you know, it's not for everybody because you don't think you need to know that stuff, and that's where the devil inside you is stopping you from seeing what you need to see. That's what's happening. Now, I put that about a bit this week, and I have to say it's had quite a lot of views in this week, especially off the Twitter. So, you know, everything has its time. It will put out just at the right point. Especially Veganos, it's in the IOI. Now it's time for people to recognise just what that thing is. That's your no-hide system, ladies and gentlemen. Jerry says they have a hat for every occasion, don't they just? You've got to hide that crown shocker from the big chap. Jay says, evening Golden Boy, I've just missed a big chunk of this as there was a cat in the garden and the mutts were going crazy. Well... And I bet the cat did it all on purpose, because they like that, them cats. Miss Pagina O'Muckalone. Hi, Sean in the mix, looking fresh as usual. Thank you very much. And hi to you, Pagina O'Muckalone. Put it on the lawn, have you? O'Muckalone, exactly, Sean. You're a bad one. Jerry says, that's why they use symbols and rituals so much to communicate. Yeah, even Sean says, Lorraine, and another bloke is, nah. Jerry says, guaranteed all new builds popping up around all communities are for them. Yep. But you can see how they're trying to mask it and hide it, and then Fries can go, we've done it! Well, fuck off, Fries, you're full of shit. Mew says, yep, sorry I'm late, so it's alright. Mark says, evening once again, yep, blah, 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 blah. George Galloway, very unlikely couple. Well, did you fucking hellfire? He has a wife to suit whatever agenda is on that pillock. I mean, you remember when he won Big Brother? What a complete prat he were. But he seemed to have fooled a lot of people. He's a wanker. A big fucking wanker. And I'll debate him anytime, but he won't. He's sneaky fucking right away from me. The sneaky little shit ass. Where we go? Looking that to me, Paul. Yeah, it's mute. I thought the same. A death mask. Yeah. Isn't that Napoleon's death mask? No, it's a bust. A bust. Isn't that Napoleon? Blah blah blah. I think I've seen pics of it. Just on a quick Google, Lorraine, Napoleon's death mask, a plaster cast of his face taken after his death on May 15, 21, is a historical artifact that was created to preserve a physical likeness of the emperor. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. The original mask was made by Francis Burton, a surgeon with the British Army 66th Regiment on St Helena, where Napoleon died. Copies were later made in bronze and plaster, and some accounts indicate that Napoleon's personal physician, Francois Antomarchi, also played a role in creating copies. Pillock lapping milk from a saucer, yeah, well, we're in that toss bag. Right, stop believing everything that you get on Google, folks. Just as a bit of an insight there, you know, they're hiding something and putting all the blame on one particular group. Remember that. Don't dig your own grave by helping them with the propaganda. Right, what have I got here? So, just to recap, there you've got Reform giving it the big. We've got these councils. They've got quite a few councils, county councils, they say. Hull and East Yorkshire, Staffordshire County Council, Lincolnshire County Council, Durham County Council, Lancashire County Council, Derbyshire County Council, Nottinghamshire County Council. So they're blacking up the big. We've got all the county councils. Well, Northampton, you know, they've got all these county councils. They don't exist anymore. So this is the Blues and Twos. Hang on, what did I have here? Oh yeah, I know what that is. I might have to just bring this in a little tad. So anyway, to all intents and purposes, people believed, and me included, that the Blues and Twos had disintegrated. And one amigo did suggest it looked like it could be IBM. Not so, says I, after speaking with a librarian last week. Now, this is the Blues and Twos Credit Union, working for you, not for profit, it says. Now, a credit union working for you and not for profit, eligibility for membership and how to join. So they're quite strict. You've got to have... So it says to become a member of the Blues and Twos Credit Union, you must work within our common bond, okay? The services you have to be within: Lancashire Constabulary, Cumbria Constabulary, Cumbria Police, Lancashire Police Federation, Her Majesty's Prison and Probation Service, National Crime Agency, Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner for Lancashire, Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner for Cumbria, the Home Office, Greater Manchester Police, Cheshire Police, Merseyside Police. So not only is it Lancashire, it's Merseyside, it's Cheshire and Manchester, okay? That's massive. Fire services, Lancashire Fire, Cumbria, Greater Manchester, Cheshire, Merseyside. Alright, now the other killers. NHS, NWAS, Blackpool, BMI, East Lancashire, Lancashire South, members of Unison, Lancashire Care, Southport Ormskirk, North Cumbria, Cumbria Partnership, Rosemary Cancer Foundation. You have to be working for them or have a member of your family working for them to become a member of this credit union. Now that's fine. Nobody would have a problem with a group of people organising this for themselves. What isn't fucking fine is that they are holding all the land and property, assets and liabilities that was Lancashire County Council. They've nicked it and it's in there, and that's the capital that they're lending all this shit on to their own people. Closed system. And they just happen to be the people that are facilitating and enforcing and make up this fascist fucking system. Okay? You getting it? Councils, so any councils you can do. Merseyside again, Manchester, Lancashire, Cumbria, Cheshire. So this is fucking massive. This is the North. Where's the King of the North? So you can be a teacher, Unison, Unite, Learning Trust, Falco's Academy, Endeavour Learning, Benign, blah, 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 blah. So teachers. Yeah? All corporate bastards fucking your kids up. Can you see what I'm saying here? They're all bastards acting wanker, fucking your kids up, robbing you, fucking you, wrecking your roads or the highways. And current private sector. Again, murderers. Like the NHS. All fucking murderers. And these bastards police enforcing it, protecting it. Doesn't sound as fucking far-fetched what I said at the beginning now, does it? Can you see? How to join. Is my money safe with you? Yeah? Can you see the picture? Do you see the gig I'm saying here? Can you see it? What else have we got? Meet the team. Let's have a look who the team is. Meet our dedicated team of uber fascists. Victoria Harrison, Chief Executive Officer. She looks like she's always been a copper or something like. Anna Watson. Ooh, that's a strange looking Flossie. Charlotte Fairclough. Another strange looking Flossie. Rachel McAteer. Another strange looking Flossie. Lisa Ogden. Hilda's daughter. Another strange looking Flossie. Lisa Rawlinson. Ooh, another strange looking Flossie. Lydia Hall. Thick as pig shit, but learning fast. Another soon to be strange looking Flossie. Lisa Fish. Yeah, I can smell that. And Margaret White. Abby doesn't want to be seen because she's worked it out, so she's hiding. So Abby Gallagher's hiding, but Margaret White is... Yeah, she looks like she's had a bad do, doesn't she? She doesn't look right happy. I think she chose right well. You know what I mean? In matrimony, she does look a little bit down in dumps. And maybe she started to realise what she's involved in and like... But them eyes look a little bit sad, don't they? The rest of them seem to be fucking loving it. Yeah, I mean, just look at that. It's a right motley crew. I mean, under English law, they'd be marched out of their offices and hung immediately. Look at that Victoria Harrison. Oh, me look lovely. No, she doesn't. She only looks lovely to fascists. You don't look lovely, darling. You're absolutely outrageously yak. Can you dig it? Can you dig it, Flossie? So there you go. There's the team of SS Stormtroopers. They're not going to like me after this, are they? I might get shot. Well, it's alright. I don't give a fuck. Shoot me. About us, what else did we have? Meet the team. About us. Let's have a look. What they're saying. About the Blues and Twos Credit Union. I'll make that a little bit bigger. When you join Blues and Twos, you are opening a regular saver account. Committing yourself to a regular savings plan helps you work towards financial goals and gives you peace of mind should an emergency arise. We make this even easier with deductions direct from your salary or pension, my God. If you do not have arrangements in place with your employer, we can organise savings by standing order. Small amounts to your credit union savings account soon add up, and when you need your savings, we will send them direct to your bank account or load to a prepaid card. A prepaid card. Now then, where have I heard that before? Well, who's giving all these fucking illegal immigrants papers, a card, a phone, rushing them through passing the test, a fucking hotel, all the gas and electric they need for fuck all? That's the fucking police, isn't it? Well. Are these fucking immigrants being funded out of these fucking private societies? That needs some investigation. And all these baby boomers here will be moaning about immigration. Shit, man. Whoa. Let's have a look. Small amounts to your credit union savings account soon up. Oh, when you do you can save from the minimum of £10 each month. You may have up to a maximum of 25 grand in total with the credit union. What is a credit union? Blues and Twos Credit Union is a not-for-profit financial cooperative owned entirely by its members and run by a trained professional team. We've seen them. Setting the policies, compliance and strategic governance as the board of directors who draw experience from a variety of business, public sector backgrounds. The team offer you ethical savings and affordable loans. Save as you borrow. So this is like a safety net for the appointed fascists and murderers and SS Stormtroopers. Ooh. So, ladies and gentlemen, it hasn't gone anywhere. Obviously, I'll put this up under the suggestion complaint. Should I put a complaint in? Excuse me, we're a bunch of fascist bastards and we don't like you. What day do you want to be hanged for treason? I mean, of course, I'm being facetious, but I really just don't want to look at this shit because it's just going to get me cross. Introduce a friend, payroll partnership, retirement, tips on saving, donations, defibrillate. So these fuckers are the responsible for sticking these defibrillators all that shit to scare the monkeys. Memberships, membership benefits, membership form, membership. I'm not looking at it anymore because it's shit. I don't like it. It's garbage. What else have I got here? Oh, have you seen this? I haven't even watched it myself. I only picked it up before we come on. Let's have a look at this. Let me just check that. I'll just make it a bit bigger. This I only found this just before I came on. Apparently, there's some funny white powder on Sir Jimmy Savile's vagina table. So let's have a crack on. Let's have a look here. Let me just. Right, are we ready?
It's a long walk. Are we back in Poland?
It's through my bathroom, huh?
It's literally. We came through Germany, and then we made it to France.
Bedroom and
we got through the border.
Right.
Look, they loved up. They're snorting MDMA. And where's this bag of powder? Oh, have they just moved it? They've moved it! Did you see that? They've moved it, you little bastards. There it is. It gets moved.
It's a long walk.
We're called shit snorting bitches.
It's through my bathroom, huh?
It's like Jimmy Savile's vagina. It's a vagina for all the world leaders.
Bedroom and
Two whipped that out fucking way, didn't they? He loves it. They loved up, look. They were snorting it. Look, it's tugging away quick. Quick, get the stats away.
Yeah.
Look at the size of them conks. Yeah, look at them looking sheepish, you little bitches. You Bolshevik shag faggots. Stay to that. Oh, nice one, Jones. I like it.
It's a long walk.
There you go. Fucking ravers. We've got ravers fucking running country. Shit. Right, what did I do here? Where is it? Here we go. Now this is, obviously, I'm not going to bore you with it to death, but this is basically the crack in all your towns, in all your boroughs, all your cities, everywhere across fucking Europe, to be honest. It's not just... What's happening into my town and who is responsible is what I said. I sort to publish this in 2019. It says... So, make it a bit bigger. You cast your vote for people you know, take up a seat on the council to represent your views on how the town can be best served, and you consider such an action by, a duty incumbent on all in the upkeep of the nation. No sooner as the candidate shifted into the office they canvass for, that we see a new and completely unsolicited agenda reel its ugly head, and the one in which you place your trust to represent you, your will, turns tail and begins to speak in a foreign language called politics, which you soon discover is not the language of your town or indeed the nation. They took up office and then take an oath to a fiction. Then they do as they're told, which is to act in a manner that convinces you, the public, that all is well, and they do indeed represent you. They are now paid up actors in the lie. What is happening in this mechanic is the fact, while the system presents itself as the expected representative affair, it is in fact a complete con and deception, because what they have failed to communicate to those of you that give the vote is the fact your council, the police, the judiciary and civil system in general has incorporated and taken up the protection of charitable status, which is unaccountable to the public and is now subject only to the will of the stakeholders. And this is the platform of incorporation. Now, of course, there's a video I made about it some years ago. Fact, the public of Ireland pay £43 million notes per annum in council tax alone. As the biggest stakeholders, how dare the council then charge business rates against the public, if they so choose to trade, exchange and barter in the town centre? The council is thus liable for placing a burden upon the public for trespass and for limiting the capacity of the public to trade, exchange and barter in the town centre. Of course, council liability translates into the public as liable. Clever, these corporations. Here is how they do it. Every town, city and borough has a secret committee, which then calls itself a community, headed by an equally secretive group of people that calls itself the stakeholder community. This community is as far a reach from the public as any legal instrument could possibly be, save for the fact it controls the secret world of commerce and incorporation, which now controls the entire domestic system of the nation. In fact, it is fair to say these communities dictate all terms over the captured through incorporation. Your council enforces that you believe to be a representative body, or your council, into a legal instrument of piracy. In Britain, this would be a legal instrument of the Holy See, what we all know as the Temple Inner City of London. In the United States, it operates through Washington District of Columbia. Each are sovereign states on the land of a nation. The Stakeholder Committee is made up of entities with a stake in your town as a corporation, not, as you falsely believe to be the case, a body formed to ensure your will counts by offering up your claim to the land into the hand of another, a councillor, whom you believe also operates in the same jurisdiction, that of land law. The fact of the matter is, once incorporated, the entire affair shifts out of the law of the land, which in the West is the canon law, and into the jurisdiction of piracy, which is admiralty and maritime, controlled not by the Vatican, but by the Jewish Holy See, through the Vatican, of course. In most towns and cities, the largest employers tend to be the supermarkets, as the Tesco example, and so it stands to all reason that supermarket corporations sit on the Stakeholder Committee, and they do. Without too much thought in this regard, we can then understand that as our towns die, the supermarkets prosper, while ensuring that for the general public, the only food to be purchased is the processed and poisoned offerings they stack upon the shelves in hideous packaging then blame on you for producing and lay siege against your wallet. You know, all the fucking bollocks to do with the just collecting your rubbish. Most of the fucking rubbish in them bins is the packaging of the fucking processed food they sell. And not forgetting, much of that strange food is imported. Hang on. Where are we? Oh, am I too high there? The knock-on effect of this diatribe is that through subsidies, the secret society affiliated farmers are paid to not farm on our land. If I take my own town of Accrington as an example, what we have is a position whereby the council is hiking business rates to ensure no shop can exist in profit. They are stifling trade to ensure only supermarket commerce can exist. A second move carried out by the council, working in sync with the Command of Commerce, is to claim grants from the Government High Street Fund, which has the sole intent of turning empty shops into houses. Take stock of that sentence for a while. I will pick this up again at the end of this report. Now, I broke this to them in the meetings, and they pretended, swore blind that this wasn't the case. And then a couple of years later, it was all presented out there. I mean, these people are just so full of shit. They're so infantile. I couldn't deal with them. I couldn't stay there because they just drove me fucking nuts. You know, you wanted to put them on your knee and beat the shit out of them with a sword, actually. However, as we have recently witnessed with the Arndale Centre, the used business rates are not paid by new and foreign traders encouraged into the town, which has left a shortfall of 260,000 in monies owed. So what they were doing in the local thing, which is head office, it's registered in offshore, they were kicking out your normal guys, English people, massive rents and them encouraging immigrants to come in and they weren't paying any fucking rent. Now it's a complete shit show. There's absolutely fuck all left in it. It leaks. It's absolute shit. Honestly, it's a disgrace how bad this town is. However, as we recently went to the Honor Centre, you've been straight. Well, we're not doing that. That's not interesting to you guys. However, as we the police no longer being constabularies outside the claim to the name only are also corporations, and as such, they, like the council, take their orders from the stakeholder committee. But they're on the stakeholder committee as well. So any big employer in any town is on this committee. And so they're deciding. Now, where they fool you with the council speak is they talk about community. Oh, and the community. But as I've said, it's a stakeholder committee, but they use the term stakeholder community. So the council is talking community. You think they're talking about you, but they're talking about those bunch of twat faggots up there sitting on this stakeholder committee. So is it any wonder your towns are dying when the supermarkets are on this committee? It's in their interest, is it not, to kill the towns and force you into these supermarkets with the facial recognition, all the shit they did through the bug script. It's all a part of a plan. It's all moving to this great reset, these permanent lockdowns, this you can't buy, sell, or fuck all way at this mark, which they've already inserted into most of you. Yeah. Oh dear heck. So whatever, name only what's going on. In Lancashire, the police operate from a fund called the Blues and Twos Credit Union. So this is another thing, 43 million council tax. And nobody knows where it goes, really. There's ideas it goes to central government, which it may. And that in and of itself is then subject to the terrorist legislation because they're breaking it. Now, I've only just been sent this data and I'm looking into it now. But obviously they'd have to prove that the council tax isn't going and funding terrorism. But also we have to keep in mind, now they cite that so much goes to the police, the fire, etc., which is all centred in this Blues and Twos Credit Union. Can you see how important that Blues and Twos Credit Union is now? Yeah, now they might not be getting the old 43 million, but they're certainly getting the percentages that they show you on your council tax bill. My guess is they're getting more, but I don't know for sure, so we'll leave that one. What are we there? This, of course, is a claim in the jurisdiction of legal, as such it's beneath the jurisdiction of the land, and thus a false claim which we must remove by destroying the land registry, which is nothing other than a legal instrument of the Holy See. It certainly is. Or the IOR. Okay? Important, this IOR, people, because it fits into everything. To achieve this, an understanding of the different jurisdictions... No, we don't need to do that. You know that crap. Right. Now, this is where it gets into how they break it up. In Accrington, the overseeing Crown agent shows itself in Bournefield Construction, which has gained control through the only entity offering credit and thus, by definition, the securing of the debt that is born of credit. The two main protagonists of the council in the enforcement of this agenda are the Conservative leader, Anthony Dobson, and Labour leader, Miles Parkinson. Now, I might have been wrong about Tony Dobson. He's dead now. I could have been incorrect about him because he actually didn't like the council. But he was pretty stuck because he'd gone bankrupt and they bailed him out and pretty much controlled him from that point on. So, but Tony Dobson as a guy, and I have known him for a long time, was actually a really nice guy. So that may have been an incorrect assumption on my part in relation to Tony Dobson. And if that turns out to be the case, I apologise profoundly for that because he was a nice guy. But Miles Parkinson, or Squeaky as we call him, he talks like a girl, he is a complete shit. Now he's an OBE and so is his little Flossie, a woman called Stacey Walsh. And they've been causing chaos during elections using this biff. And he started to come into the Chamber of Trade meetings to try and stir it up. But of course I made it clear to him if he carries on, I might have to knock him out. So he chilled the fuck out after that. But this little bastard were causing chaos, pretending to hate the council, but he were working for Miles Parkinson and Stacey Walsh. Now this Stacey fucking Walsh, which is what they always do, has opened a fucking food pantry in the town centre to make it look like she's lovely and fantastic. All the fruit bats go in it for free brews, so she's pretty solid there. Now they're pretending to all be separate. Yeah, I saw the other week this lunatic and Stacey. You can tell they're in a cock to vagina relationship. Okay, so Miles Parkinson, OBE, Stacey Walsh, OBE, they were causing havoc through this fucking fruitcake, who's also connected to the Freemasons in BAE Systems, I've learned, who were very busy recruiting your offspring just to get them in this fascist system. All interesting stuff. Anyway, overseeing this platform is a corporate enterprise called Globe Enterprise, divided into 3 share allocations, with the council holding, and that's the body council, holding only 1/3 share. Bournefield owns another share, and another share was owned by James Stewart Nevison and his wife Irene Nevison. James Nevison is a front for Prince Charles, who runs the duchy on behalf of his mother. Now, this is another interesting aspect that I'm starting to look at now that we're up out of this shit and up there into the IN system, that if he's not the monarch, then who the fucking hell's benefiting from Cornwall and Lancaster? Because Longhead and Fat Fingers have renounced that right. You want to think about that for a little bit. That's important stuff. So Globe Enterprise is actually broke up in, I can't remember where it takes us this. Let me just have a look. So if I hit that, where does it take me? Right, I go through incorporating Great Britain via subterfuge. And that is also the...
A big society means we must face up to this generation's debts.
That's also where Harry Beckoff comes into play. So if you want to see how they break it up in the share allocation, it's in that video. So land registry, I'm talking about the corporate trap, Miles Parkinson OBE, I'll show him. Squeaky. Oh, page unavailable. Error at Lancashire County Council. Oh dear, yeah. He's not there for you to see. Oh dear, yeah. We'll have to find. Now that I know that that's broken, I'll have to find him. Anyway, I've had enough already now. I've had enough of that. It is a very interesting gig, and if you pay attention, and along now understanding the blues and twos a little bit more, because you'll find that that is the system that they have set up everywhere across the nation. You get my drift? And you can see that credit union is looking after its own. The hapless, who hate the fascists, hate immigration, and haven't realised that the very fucking force that they're working for is the fascist system, is the reason that the immigrants are coming over, because that ultimate corporation, the United Kingdom Corporate Soul, is the contracting party to the United Nations, to the EU. It's outrageous. It's fucking outrageous. So that's why the importance of blues and twos, because, like I said, I thought it had gone. It's bigger now than it's ever been. On the back of all our land and property in Lancashire and Cheshire and Merseyside and Manchester. I didn't even know it were Manchester, Merseyside and Cheshire. Now I understand what Duke of Westminster were doing when I were all over him back in the day for nicking the Earl of Peel's estate. Because he was the Deputy Lord Lieutenant of Cheshire. And I was saying, what the fuck are you doing sitting in my woods in Lancashire? And this is going way back. I have a piece up about him. I'll put that underneath here as well. And then they announced he died. Because I found a load of stuff in America which were interesting. You can't really find much about him here because this is a very secretive nation. But if you go to America, you'll find a lot. And this is where I could see that these families, the immortal seven, as it were, that brought over William of Orange, they were given as a payback all the power they could have in America, and that's why they're so wealthy. And the aristocracy that they've left here are all basically Charles II bastards, and those Medicis. Camilla being the same, Charles being Evelyn's, and in my opinion, long-haired William being Jacob's. And there you get your King of Jerusalem gig and all that shit that they're playing with this Noahide. I mean, these people are fucking demented, let's be honest. Aren't they? They're absolutely fucking insane, these people. And where's that opening up? Now, this is an interesting little piece you might be interested in. Let me just...
At this point, you need to know the truth.
The world has been led to believe that the Wailing Wall is a sacred remnant of the Second Temple, a place where God's presence still lingers.
A disproportionate amount of...
Don't cancel the messenger, but at this point, you need to know the truth.
The world has been led to believe that the Wailing Wall is a sacred remnant of the Second Temple, a place where God's presence still lingers. But this narrative falls apart under historical and archaeological scrutiny. The structure commonly revered today is, in truth, a surviving wall of the Roman military compound known as Fort Antonia, not the Holy Temple. The actual temple stood to the south, built over the Gihon Spring, a requirement for temple purification rituals, which the Roman compound did not meet. The protruding rock beneath the dome of the rock, often mistaken for the foundation stone of the temple, was in fact the central part of Fort Antonia. In other words, the Jews today are not praying at the remains of God's temple. They are praying at the wall of a Roman fortress. But the deception goes deeper. The rituals performed at the Wailing Wall are rooted not in biblical faith, but in the 13th century occult system of the Kabbalah, as elaborated in the Zohar and further mystified by the Hasidic movement. The supposed divine presence they seek at the wall is not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is the Shekhinah, a feminine emanation in Jewish mysticism. She is described in erotic, intimate terms, often as a divine consort, with whom spiritual union is sought through the act of prayer, a practice called kavana, where physical movement, like the back and forth thrusting you see, mirrors an esoteric sexual ritual intended to unite the Shekhinah with the Ein Sof, the infinite masculine force of their God concept. This is not worship. It's a metaphysical sex act disguised as devotion. It is an inversion of divine truth, rooted in mysticism that Scripture calls an abomination. And this is where it collides with our politics. Nearly every major political figure, presidents, prime ministers, global influencers, must perform their rite of passage at the Wailing Wall, hands pressed against stone, heads bowed in reverence. They are not just pondering to voters or honoring tradition. They are knowingly or unknowingly participating in an occult ritual, submitting themselves at the very seat of the synagogue of Satan. Scripture is unambiguous. In Acts 17:24, it says, God does not dwell in temples made with hands. Much less would he dwell in a Roman fortress surrounded by rituals that glorify a false god and mystical union. It is spiritual prostitution. Our leaders are not just shaking hands with global powers. They are shaking hands with the devil.
The devil, but they're not just shaking hands with it, they're shagging it, for God's sake.
Don't cancel the messenger, but at this point...
Now then, what do you think of that? That's a bit outrageous, isn't it? Let's be honest. So that's what the moving that they're doing is. And you see Trump pretending not to move, but did it really because he had to. What's this? I think this is Kissinger talking.
Foreign policy has become global. Communications are instantaneous, and there exist problems which are genuinely not national, like environment, nuclear proliferation, and similar issues. So in this sense, we are living in a new world, and a new world order will emerge. The only question is whether it will arise out of intellectual and moral insight and by design, or whether it will be forced on mankind by a series of catastrophes. That's the challenge of our period. And it makes it, to my mind, one of the most exciting periods in which anybody can live. For the first time in history, foreign...
Anybody can live. See, it gets back to this living and the dead. When you start to look at it, the living and the dead, you can see that this is, everything he said there, you'll either be pulled together because people are smart like them, or it'll be forced on us by a series of catastrophes. So it's got nothing to do with God. Nothing to do with gods or anything. This is all about the PCIs, the purveyors of compound interest, forcing their will on the fact they want to collect on the property that they've accrued because people have been in debt to them. Monarchies, governments, etc. all these years. And that's what they... And because they put up as collateral in 1933, yeah, the government in debt to these PCIs had the audacity to put us up as collateral. Can you see? It starts to make sense, doesn't it? Doesn't it make sense when you start to just put these little pieces together? It's unreal. No, it's just unreal. Give me my foreskin back, says Ulick. No, that's in somebody's lips. Some fancy bird's walking around with your foreskin in the lips. Mate, that's what's in that shit. Yeah, foreskins everywhere. I mean, can you see how much they're laughing at you? I'm talking to girlies. That you're walking around with cocks in your mouth all the time. They're just laughing. I mean, they're laughing at you. It's just... I can understand why they laugh. I mean... Fucking hell, honestly, it's just... It is outright. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. Glow in the world dispensing plenty cash about to it, yeah. No, Mr. Kellogg, let me go to Vina. Right, chaps and chappesses, that's about me done. Yeah, it just gets worse, doesn't it? But that Wailing Wall, I mean, not only is it now to do with their own religion, they're not just wailing, they're banging it. Now, it's a mental illness, in my opinion, if you're going to talk to a wall anyway, regardless. And I mean, any film I've seen of these lunatic asylums, what do they all seem to be doing? Talking to a fucking wall. And you assume that that's why they're in the loony bin. Yet, when these fruitcakes do it, we've all to revere it and go, oh, how amazing, these people run our lives. We are so lucky. Well, they're all easy bad enough that they're talking to a fucking wall. They're trying to shag it. And on that fucking mentalness, it's a diatribe. Have a good week. Thanks, mods, for modding. But do you know what? It's crazy. It's a crazy fucking world. And it's getting worse. Till the next time.
electronic engineering.